All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome to a new podcast that I was starting. I know I mentioned it before in one of my other videos that I'd be starting one. It's called Lost in Lorcana. I think it's a pretty solid name. I don't know. I like the name there. But I have my co-host. I found him actually at a local. He hit me up, said he would be down to be a co-host, and I think we have some good chemistry and energy off first impressions. But yeah, I'm John again. I don't know if I just said that, but JohnnieDB, you know me if you came to my channel, and I'll let him introduce himself, as well as he's gonna go over a little bit of his TCG history, and then I'll get back to kind of where I'm at as far as TCG, because I've never gone over that. But yeah, go ahead and take it away, Mark.
Thanks for the introduction, Johnny. Appreciate it. Hey guys, my name is Mark Potter, aka Potter Plays. I've played TCGs since I was a teenager. If you want to include, I don't know, Solitaire as a TCG, then when I was a kid, but probably not. But basically, I started off with Magic the Gathering, kind of like everybody else did, and then eventually went to Yu-Gi-Oh! For a very long time.
Magic to Yu-Gi-Oh! That's reversed.
It was a weird thing. But it just honestly was when I was able to play / who was able to play with me. It was one of those like, do what you can.
Yeah.
So after that, after Yu-Gi-Oh! Went back to Magic for Commander, and I love Commander. It's a fun game, but the new hotness is Lorcana, and I'm all in for it. So that being said, again, this is Mark Potter, aka Potter Plays. Back to you, Johnny.
Yep. And in case any of you guys want to see either of our socials, you could see under me, you got JohnnieDB on YouTube, which you're already here, JohnnieTCG on Twitter, as well as I have it under Mark's name. You got Potter Plays for YouTube and Potter_Plays for Twitch, where he plays Lorcana, but also he does variety games. So if you go to his Twitch, you can see him playing multiple things, not just Lorcana, if you're into other games as well. But as far as my history for TCG, it's not very long. I actually started with Yu-Gi-Oh! When I was younger. Went to a few events. I wasn't super into the competitive, like I wasn't as much as I am now, or when I got into Magic a few years later, which I think is an easier transition than Magic to Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't know if any of you have not played Yu-Gi-Oh! Just go look up the card Spirit Reaper. That's one of the first few cards that came out within the first couple sets, and it's a paragraph long to read of text. And so if you have no idea what Yu-Gi-Oh! Is like. But anyway, my brother and I during COVID we're looking to get into something, while we weren't doing too much, and I always knew Magic was there, and I knew it was kind of relatively easy to get into. There's a lot of complexities to the game, but for someone to just get into a game a lot easier than it is for say Yu-Gi-Oh! So we kind of got into it. We fell out of it a little bit. I got back into it a couple years ago, and started getting heavy into that. And then even more recently, I started collecting, like investing in Pokemon. So I never really played the TCG, but I invested in it. I still invest in it a little bit and hold on to some sets and whatnot. But that's kind of my history in TCG. So pretty limited. But if you're coming to this channel for the first time, I'm sure a lot of you played Magic before, and you can agree, like, if you've played Magic, you kind of can get into this game relatively easy. I would say this is probably most similar to Magic than any other TCG I've seen. I don't know if you agree.
Yeah, no, I would 100% agree there. I literally talked to a person at a local this past Sunday, and the guy was like, "Hey, what is this?" And I'm like, "It's Lorcana." He goes, "Oh, this looks a little like," and before you even say Magic, he goes, "Oh, this looks like Magic together." I'm like, "It's similar." I explain some of the mechanics. He's like, "Oh, this is Disney Magic." Okay, sure. He looked at his wife, and his wife was like, "Okay, let's go get the sword next."
Yeah, and that's the cool thing about this game too. Is like when I went to Gen Con actually and met a lot of really cool people there. And there was someone there.
By the way, at Gen Con. I'm sorry, we both went there. I was like, wait, we both were there?
Oh, you went to Gen? Yeah. I'm surprised I didn't run into you, because I feel like I ran into 100 people that's in the Chicagoland area and that I've seen in other places now and locals or whatever. But there was one person I met. I believe his name was Bren. I believe I could be wrong, but he was telling me, or maybe it was someone else was telling me about how he tried to teach their kids Magic for a really long time, but they just weren't really into it. And then Disney comes out, and then they're kind of like interested now, like their 6-year-old daughter or whatever, she sees Moana, and now she's into it. So I think this game has bonded a lot of TCG like parents who had kids who maybe are not a fan of Magic, even though I think the art's great. I understand it's not necessarily the most appealing to kids or whatever, and not everyone's into Pokemon. Like Disney is just worldwide. Generally speaking, you see movies, shows. So I think it's a lot easier too for kids to want to get into it, which I think is really cool now, because the parents who've always been fan of TCGs, now they have something to play with them. Or even a lot of people who talk about their girlfriends or wives who like never really cared, but Disney, so they're like getting into it. You know, have you felt that? I'm sure you felt that.
Yeah. So there's been I want to say it's the creator of the game. He said this is like he knows that this is going to be the first card game for a lot of people out there.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening. There are a ton of Disney, just if it's got the Disney name on it, they either buy it or look at it. And this has hit far and wide. I've seen people that are either, like I'm 39. I've seen people who are 60 plus playing this. I've seen kids as young as 5. And it's nothing against Magic, but there's so many kids out there, like, you know, their parents are like, hey, that the art, while it is great,
sure,
it's hard. Sometimes it can scare kids. It's just what it is.
Sure.
And this being a family-friendly game, like the most threatening card out there is probably Maleficent or Dragonfire for 2 of the cards out there. Like it's really
harsh
not meant
card.
to be scary.
If you show a kid Dragonfire and they scream and run out the room, then you might want to get a new kid. I don't know.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's just definitely for all the people I saw playing this game to either pick it up or just to see what it was.
Yeah,
a lot of them were like, "Oh, my kids are gonna love this," and it's and it was just like for the collecting aspect of this.
Yep.
I've collected Pokemon cards like everybody else.
Sure.
I played in TCG. I love it. At the same time, it's just one of those like, you know, you kind of fall in and out of it. And yes, this is a brand new game. I can see people saying, "Oh, it's a fad." It's not. Like this has the staying power because one, it has Disney's backing with it, and I mean, the game itself, it's easy to play. Like that's the whole point. Like if this was a convoluted game to play, whatever. Sure. I mean, I played Disney's Sorcerer Arena on the phone. It's okay, but it's kind of limited. This. I can do so many things with this card game.
Yeah, I mean, and the co-creators both came from, I believe they worked for Wizards and they worked on Magic actually. So they have an idea of TCG. This feels like, and I've heard it before, and there's a lot of excuses, and I'm definitely going to make my own individual video, and I'm sure we can talk about it here on the podcast at some point. But there's a lot of people that I hear that, there's obviously just the haters, the people that just love the TCG they're in, whether they're afraid of something else coming in and competing, or if they just are that type of person where any new TCG, they just put it off to the side like it's nothing. I mean, and in all fairness, there have been several TCGs that have came out. They stayed for a year, 2 years, then they fall off to never be heard from again. So it could be this cycle of, we heard this before, the hype is going to be the next big thing, and then now we still continue to see Magic, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh as the mainstay. I mean, you have your Flesh and Bloods, and
One Piece as well.
One Piece now is
getting me up there. And as what you're saying, the reason I had a goofy smile earlier is I will name drop. This is not disrespect, but this is, you know, from my memories of what's going on. We have the professor from Magic the Gathering. He's the biggest, you know, Magic YouTuber out there.
Tellurian College, right?
Yeah, and when he reviewed Lorcana, like just like what is this?
Yep.
It was I believe on his thumbnail, it was like, no, like you don't have to worry about it.
Like, I haven't touched it because I'm afraid to be mad. I want to yell through the screen like you're wrong.
That's the whole thing. This is something that is I've seen him do, and I'm going to point it out for 2 different reasons. Sure. 1, to show transparency, and 2, to say, hey, I'm not throwing hate, I'm not throwing shade, I'm throwing just what I've seen, you know? So the 2 things I've noticed are, if he likes a card game, he will say, hey, this is cool, Flesh and Blood, blah, 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 I really enjoy it. It's, you know, try it out. And I appreciate that. Like, I didn't know Flesh and Blood wasn't always talked about it, so I'm happy about that. But Lorcana, it's Disney, you know, it's a card game, blah. So that's the vibe I got from it. It was very disingenuous. However, Flip side to Magic, he does not care for Singularis too much. He likes some of the artwork, sure.
Yeah.
When Transformers got involved in it, it was 100% why are they doing this?
Right.
Why are they ruining Magic? And it's like, hold up, hold your phone. I love Transformers. This was like, hold up, those wizards want my money. This is how you get my money. Then, you know, I bought the Secret Lair. I loved it. I was 100% bored for that.
Sure.
Baldur's War was one of the most bought sets I bought because of that. Anyways, with that being said, on the flip side, he loves Doctor Who, and guess what? That's a Secret Lair. But guess what? He's happy about it, and that's fine. I'm glad he has something that's coming into his game that he enjoys. But it's like you can't say I'm not biased, but I'm biased, whatever. And then, well, Disney's just got a card game. There's Disney. Yeah. It's kind of about time. Like there's enough creators, enough artists, enough people who can make rules, whatever, for card games out there that can make something stick and stay.
Sure.
Yes, we've had plenty of games come and go, but I feel like we're due for a card game that has a staying power. Like at Gen Con, when I talked to the set designer, they're already working on set 7. Like, yes, that's a lot of sets out there already, but
yeah. So sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I just wanted to fill in because actually, my brother and I, so to go over the story real quick, we've told everyone pretty much. We just think it's really cool. I don't know. I think it's pretty decent. I don't know. We went through this whole, we were like a part of the first like 40 people who were waiting outside on Thursday for Gen Con. We went through this whole mix up of, there was a line that they formed, but then they said there was no line, so it was a free-for-all through the middle, and then all of a sudden they started building a line again, probably because the event has a rule against lines, but then they realized like Lorcana is not just any other game that we're presenting, so they realized, okay, let's set up a line for them. So then now after the free-for-all there's a line, but I noticed that someone behind us was wearing a particular Lorcana hat that I had only seen the staff wearing. So I turned to him and I started to see them forming a line, and I wasn't sure what was going on, but I thought, he was behind me, so I thought to ask him like, hey, do you know what's going on? And he's like, no, I'm not really sure. And then I was like, well, I just see in your hat, so I assumed you were maybe like on staff or something. And he was like, oh, I'm Steve's son, which, if you don't know, Steve Warner is one of the co-creators of the game. And this kid is waiting in line with the rest of the people to get a booster box. I'm sitting here like, what? You can't just get a box, like, or cards or whatever? Your dad, he's like, no, I gotta buy my own. And as we're like in line with him, because he ended up being just behind us the whole time, as we actually got into the real line and started going through, we asked him some stuff, and he had, said that he played. He said that he played several of the sets, and that as far as we know right now, six sets are set or are already made. We don't know when they're gonna release, obviously, but just I thought that was really cool. And to go back to what we were talking about too, as far as the staying power or the potential of this game, like I said, I'll come out. I have a lot of opinions on this in particular, but I think Disney has the potential. And I don't mean in the next year, 2 years, whatever. So, you might want to leave this video after I say it, but I'm just saying it has the potential, keyword potential, I think, to be even the greatest TCG. And I don't mean as far as like, oh, it's the most fun. That's subjective, obviously. But as far as sales go, staying power, I mean, Disney's here forever. And this TCG is being built by people who know how to make TCGs and proper TCGs. I was watching a video of people playing for the first time called Card Market, their channel, which is an awesome channel that I just discovered. So if you like Magic and whatnot, they do mostly Magic videos, but Card Market, they were playing Lorcana, and a lot of the cards they were playing, they were bringing up very old versions of Magic the Gathering cards that are the exact same. So like, you could say like that's stealing or whatever, but I think that's just building a good foundation and them using resources to build up the game that they have, and they know what has succeeded in previous TCGs. That's what they're doing to build the foundation right now. And Disney is it's one of the biggest. I think it's like the third biggest entertainment corporation behind like Netflix, and I forgot what. I looked it up for my video. Like, they have the most net worth of like any, especially compared to Magic. I think Pokemon is decently close, but not really. And obviously Yu-Gi-Oh is nowhere close.
Pokemon went over Magic, I believe, for either
no,
for
Pokemon's over
share
Magic
value.
and Wizards. Like whether you want to look it up by Wizards net worth, they're also owned by I forget what's the name of the company that actually owns like Magic, technically like Wizards. Hasbro. Like no matter which company, which branch you want to look up net worth, like Disney blows them out of the water. It's just Pokemon 100%. Is relatively close. So it's like not that really matters, but you got to think Disney has Disney World, Disneylands across just worldwide where they could sell the games, they could teach people the games. They're doing big box retailers. They have movies that are billion-dollar movies that they're consistently coming out with, shows, a whole streaming platform, like games. Like their scope, what they cover is just not even close. Like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, what not Pokemon's the closest with the games and the show, kind of.
Right.
And whatnot.
Well, here's the thing, real quick. Like, to interject here.
Yeah.
With Disney itself, they have the ability to go, okay, let's say Magic and Pokemon are the wheel, like you invent the wheel, right?
Yeah. Yep.
They're not going to reinvent the wheel, but they're going to modify the crap out of it. And again, you're going to have these people out there that go, oh, it's a Disney product. I'll buy it. Oh, why not? I'll see what it is. And you're going to have your collectors, your non-collectors. You're going to have people who are like, if it's Disney, they just buy. I know people who are literally like that. If it's Disney, they buy it. It does not matter.
Yep.
And then, for example, you're saying like the value they have with all their, and yes, Ravensburger, they're the ones producing it. It's still being backed by Disney. That's the biggest thing. I think a lot of people discredit it for them. It's like, oh well, it's just they're not gonna Disney wants their money, and I can't blame them at this point. Like they're in everything else, and now they're in a card game that's successful.
Yep.
I can't see this. It would be ridiculous to see them go, okay, well, hey, we have 8 sets, goodbye. We invest all this money, goodbye. I don't see them doing that.
I don't.
I've seen other card games do that, but not Disney.
Bandai. But hopefully they don't do that to One Piece, because One Piece, I love the success, and that's what we should be wanting. I feel like as a TCG community as a whole, it's just good, solid TCG across the board. Like
100%
Magic's 100%. Always gonna be there. I promise there's no one that I've met to this day that is playing Lorcana that like was still currently playing Magic like very seriously that is now just quitting Magic to play Lorcana. Like you don't have to be afraid that people are gonna leave. It's people who played Magic and they quit a long time ago, and now it's Disney and they're rejuvenated because of family or whatever. They maybe just wanted to get back into TCG and they just didn't want to get back into Magic or Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh or whatever the case is. So it's like I feel like we can all just be happy that right now it feels like with One Piece coming through and with Lorcana and how big this game is seeming to be, you should just be happy that the state of TCG is like in a really good spot. I think it's progressing.
It's finally getting healthy. It's finally getting the ability to grow. Like I can't Late Seekers. It's an old TCG now.
Okay.
Like by a couple of years, and whatnot. That game died out because again the top 3 suffocated it, and it's unfortunate, but like same thing with Hasbro. I love Transformers. They made a Transformer TCG, and I went hardcore into that. I was as much as I could.
Yeah.
And then Hasbro's like, oh, you know what? Because of shipping and COVID or whatever, we're shutting it down. I'm like, hold up.
Yeah, right.
Magic stuff, it's the same bloody company.
Yeah,
like,
right.
What do you mean you're shutting it down? You're just shipping it from the same place.
Let's be fair though, Magic, they don't have to risk. Like they know it's successful. Like they don't, they're not risking on a new game. So to be fair, but I understand where you're coming from 100%. Like, and so as much as we can sit here and just do a whole podcast on how we feel, how well this game can do. We'll go over in this podcast specifically as well the positives we feel about this game and the negatives just generally as a game, because there are negatives. Don't get us wrong. We're not saying things are perfect. I mean, obviously the elephant in the room. Like, so we understand, we're not just blind to the fact, but we're just trying to be fair, and basically at the end of the day, what I'm saying is, you like your TCG, we like ours. Who cares? I love Magic still. I don't hate Magic because of Lorcana. No one does. If you're playing Magic and you're loving Magic, cool. You don't need to want to
have Magic. We wouldn't have Lorcana.
Exactly. Straight up. Yeah, we understand that. We understand.
If we didn't have Pokemon, we wouldn't have. Again, it's literally, if we didn't have one, we wouldn't have the other.
Right. So, with all that out the way now, let's get into like the first topic that we really want to go over, and sure. I think a good spot to start off with is the meta currently. So, just getting into constructed, kind of. I kind of wanted to ask you, how do you personally feel about the meta based on, locals that you've gone to, maybe what you've seen on Pixelborn or what you've played personally? Like, how do you feel where do you feel the meta's at? Do you think it's healthy? Do you think it needs to shift in some way? Just generally overall, how do you feel?
Right. No, that's a great first question for this. So one, I feel like the meta is healthy. The first 3 weeks, it was literally the wild west. Anything could be like,
yeah, right.
This works.
Right.
People were throwing mud at a wall and seeing what literally would stick. However, once we have, I'm going to use the word advanced, but it's not meant in a derogatory term. It's meant people who are, let's say, who want to take the time to see what really can stick somewhere else.
People who dedicated their time, really play testing cards, decks, and I get you.
So, for example, the meta I think is healthy. It has a varying degree of shifting already. So, a couple weeks ago, our meta was Amber Steel with Ruby Amethyst, and that was it.
It's literally it.
Now I'm looking from shout out to Gilbert. I can't pronounce his last name, but I'll try.
Okay.
Gold Marino, something like that. But basically, he's talking about from Pixelborn, the top.
Are you talking about
decks,
are you talking about with the weekly report of Pixelborn?
Yeah.
All right, I'll put that up on the screen. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the total games of that are played is 4,000 games plus. That's amazing.
Almost 5,000.
That's a free claim, by the way. Nobody's getting. They have a Patreon. You do not have. I'm sorry, I gotta say this. You do not have to pay for that to play the game. It's free.
You get all the cards, including they have a lab where you can play with some of the revealed cards that aren't out yet.
Yes. So right now, as long as you put it on screen, the top meta as it is, you get Amber Steel, Ruby Amethyst, and Sapphire Amber, and then you got the Amethyst and Sapphire Steel. One thing I've noticed though is Steel is everywhere.
Yeah,
and that's coming from not from Pixelborn too much, but from locals.
Yes.
Locals. Every local I've gone to, there, myself included, there's Steel is part of their deck. However, it's kind of funny. I've had people come to me now from locals saying, "Hey, because of your deck, I built your deck or a variation," and it's like, okay, that's kind of neat. One person literally said, "You inspired me to build Amber Steel." I'm like, "Oh, cool."
No, yeah.
At the same time, I feel that the meta itself, the reason I say it's healthy is it can fluctuate. It can actually ebb and flow.
Yes.
The people are already building anti-meta decks, which to me, Ruby Amethyst is the anti-meta to what Amber Steel is.
Sure.
And then we have road decks out there that are blue steel and they just ramp fast, or blue green. It's like, okay, I wasn't expecting that, and then bam, they're at 20 lore.
I mean, literally the blue green, it was ridiculous to me because so I had put up a poll. It's on my channel right now if you haven't seen the video of it, but I had put up a poll on Facebook in the Lorcana HQ group, or maybe it's just Disney Lorcana group, and I had people vote on which color they felt was the worst point right now, just as a color, and the two highest voted were Emerald and Sapphire. And man, I knew that they were going to be voted the two worst, and for me, I was like, how am I going to build a deck like this? Like, blue for the most part is primarily like ramp, like when you built a deck previously, when you think Sapphire, you're thinking like, oh, you're building some sort of ramp, And that's how I thought about it. And then a day, I think like before I came out with the actual video, or recorded the video, someone placed top 8 in an event with a blue green. And then so I was like, perfect, now I could just play with his. I don't have to make some mess and try to perform with it. So I played with his deck, and then all of a sudden now I've seen blue green at least one time being played at every local since then. And it's crazy. Like you said, I just branching off of what you said, it just feels like the meta right now is in a really healthy state. And someone actually mentioned at I went to a local, what was it, yesterday was, no, not yesterday, but Saturday. And I didn't really think about it, but it is just getting really diverse right now. It was at a point, like you said at the beginning, kind of the Wild Wild West. Then it turned into Amber Steel versus Ruby Amethyst. Well, for a while, let's be honest, it was Ruby Amethyst. It was
Amber Steel versus everybody else. That was the main thing. There was just whatever could dethrone that.
Right. And then songs came out, the kind of Amber Steel Control, which branched into Amber Steel Aggro that someone came up with the Rockstar Stitch and Draw. And now I see everything. Saturday at my local, obviously you have your Ruby Amethyst, your Amber Steels. I played against somebody who had Amber Steel Aggro. I play Amber Steel Songs, which is more mid-range control, right? Then someone else was playing the Emerald Amethyst, which is another deck. I have a video coming out for with gameplay where it's kind of like it's always been there, like lingering, and it's placed top 8 here and there, but like no real noise has been made with it. So now I'm seeing that a lot because it performed recently at a 1K. It placed 3rd and 4th, and so then I saw a Amber Amethyst aggro, which is just like not played a lot, but is a really harsh aggro to play against. I don't know if you've ever played against it, but it's annoying.
I haven't played against the aggro version, but I played against a lot of Ruby Amethyst or just
Amber Amethyst.
What was it? I played against a bunch of Ruby variants, and sometimes those variants are just mean. Like it's, I mean, it's. I kind of get why it's hard to play against, but it's almost one of those like, okay, I've got a really good hand, and nope, you're gone.
Yeah. So I do agree with you 100% that the meta currently is in a really good spot. We'll go over the second set here in a little bit, but yeah, like I said, I generally think overall, like you mentioned, I think you hit it on the head. I think we kind of nailed that one as far as how we feel. I mean, let us know in the comments how you feel. Do you think it's in a bad state? We get that. We're not talking about this
at this moment. Like that's just how it is. Everything is going to be subjective for a while. Honestly, I feel like the first 3 months of this game, like from September till for 3 months, what is it, November, December, somewhere in that area, like it's going to be we're still inventing. People are still figuring out what's the most optimum deck out there. I mean, Amber Steel's most played right now, but once set 2 comes out, that's going to change. It's going to change hard.
Yeah. Dude, some of these cards, again, we'll go over it, but so let's see. I think a good place to go from here, let's just get into the positives and the negatives of the game. So we understand restocks terrible right now, scalpers. I saw someone who had purchased packs who were selling them on the Facebook group for $16. It's I mean, that's just wild. I mean, obviously, you can do what you want. If people buy it, they buy it. It's kind of half on the person, half on the people buying. But also at the same time, I would say actually it's more so on the person selling it, because the people buying just really want product because it's so hard to find. So it's kind of like either that or nothing. So
I'm about 80% to agree with you, because I mean, for negatives, it's the availability, the scalping prices. I mean, sometimes you get 1 or 2 places like, hey, there was no product available, or one store had it and that was it. I've seen that even with Pokemon and Magic before. But my other negative is just the product allocation, as in after Gen Con, Ravensburger / Disney knew what they had. This became the Golden Goblet, whatever. This is their treasure that they can just print money. And it's like, okay, They underestimated it for Gen Con. And again, I'm not trying to be negative, but this is where the negatives come at. Like,
sure,
they knew what they had. They then should have adapted to that and then gone from there.
And I can't. Yeah, I agree. I can't speak on how difficult it is for printing, because I have talked to a local game store manager. You know, how much they really are informed about printing and how that works and everything. Obviously, and especially with COVID that happened. Whether, you know, obviously we're in a state right now where, you know, COVID's there, but it's not an issue like it was, you know, obviously. But you still have to understand the effects of that aren't going to be cleared for a while, if ever. Like put a halt to close down really the world for a year is not something you just come back from in another year. Like, that leaves damage.
I know someone who works in a shipping for government contracts and stuff, and it's going to probably take another full year for that mess to unclog itself. And once that's done, then the smaller things such as TCGs or whatever will have a better free flow. If that makes sense.
And printing companies had to stop, which means they had to reschedule the people who had it set before, because obviously you schedule in advance. Ravensburger doesn't just walk into a TCG factory, whatever, and they go, I need a billion cards. Like, they set a schedule, they have a time frame to use that, and then it gets manufactured. And then when COVID hit, other people who had it before them had to be rescheduled, pushed back, so they had to get theirs pushed back. Luckily, we're still getting it. Like you had mentioned before, Transformers, they kind of just decided to cut it completely. Luckily, that didn't happen with Lorcana. They had enough confidence in the game to decide that, you know what, we'll eat the couple years we gotta wait, then we'll put it out when it's officially ready. And like you said, it's clear they know the hype. So it is a negative, 100%. I think they're doing the best they can to help with the situation. And if you're just sitting there and you think like this is a situation that can just be fixed like that, and you think that they're not trying, then I think you're probably not looking, or you're not. It's very clear. I even heard, I don't know if you heard it, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm just dreaming this, but you know, initially they had their local restock set for October, which they do have that, then set 2 to come out in November, I believe November 17th, and then they had the reprints, which October is not the reprints. October, they already had their restock for the local gaming store set. That is not a reprint. That was already there to happen. The reprints were supposed to happen in like the first quarter of next year. But I heard recently...
You're right, though. They went ahead and they confirmed that they actually bumped up their reprint schedule to hit demand, because they understand what
in
they
December,
have.
I think, right? Or something. I thought it was. But maybe it's
sure it's December, because they said for the holidays. So I'm hoping it's December, because I'll throw it out there. My birthday is in December. That'd be a great gift.
Oh, so 2 Christmas, 2 Christmases in one. But I mean, 100%. So that just goes to show. Look, like, give them a chance. I understand prices are soaring. There's nothing they can do about the high prices that are on TCG Player and eBay. There's nothing they can do about that. There's nothing they can do about, I mean, I don't know. Maybe they can do something about actual like local gaming stores pricing. I don't know if that is something they can legally do or not. No, I don't think they would want to do that.
I can speak to it to a point.
Okay.
They can't control the pricing, but once they, let's say Ravensburger had a contact in one of the local game stores.
Sure.
If they were to see, oh, this store is charging 2 times, you know, what a normal box costs, well, hold up. There's a list. I hate saying there's a list, but I know some places can do that. Ravensburger probably won't do that. They're probably going to say, all right, hey, who's ordering as much as they can? And they would probably have a research team going, okay, let's look up that store. Let's see what their actual sales are. I mean, that can probably happen. My bigger issue here is, and again, the negative is coming from some local game stores.
Okay.
I won't name drop. I'm not going to be that guy.
Sure. Yeah.
But I will say I'm 100% frustrated with stores going, okay, well here's a $100, $200, sometimes $300 over MSRP, and it's like okay, you know what? I want to play this game to have. I want to be competitive. I want to have fun. Yeah. I can't at this point, and this is where people will say, transparency wise,
Yeah.
I will praise the professor from Torrey Community College to say buy singles. But then it becomes how much you're going to pay for a single.
Yeah, right. Which I think also there are like the amethyst emerald deck, and like you have your ruby emerald decks that really isn't around anymore, but was making like waves back before, and those are more budget friendly, which are still like 200 because you have your Cusco's, and in the emerald amethyst you have like John Silver's, but these are playable decks and with cards that you can work around. You can manage your way, go to locals, play the game, at least have some fun, like learn the game and slowly get your way into what you actually really want to play. I know it's tough. It's easier said for me because I have the deck right now that I want to play, but also at the same time when I was building Ruby Amethyst, I still to this day can't complete my set because I have not pulled a Maleficent Dragon or an Elsa, the Spirit of Winter one, and I'm not about to drop $400 on a playset of each. So I pivoted, and Amber still has seemed to work out pretty well. But yeah, so those, as far as negatives, maybe
that was kind of, those were, I feel like that was like when we hit those negatives like on point, like that's it. I mean everything else is kind of like not a nitpick, but like okay,
sure,
it's not part of the main bubble, as it were.
Do you think there's anything as far as gameplay that you would see as a negative? It's super early, so it's kind of hard to tell, but I can sit here and go over some positives right away. Whether or not they'll still be positives in the future, who knows?
The only negative I see for gameplay is the mulligan. I feel like...
Oh, you think that's a negative? Okay, we might disagree here. Let me see. Okay.
We should have the mulligan, yes.
Okay.
You should be able to mulligan at least twice. That way, because I've mulliganed my entire hand away and gotten complete garbage. I should be able to mulligan that away to say, hey, at least I'll get something better.
Sure.
But that's just my own personal preference, but that's my only negative on the gameplay.
Okay. So I definitely thought you were going the route of like just a completely different version of mulligan. Like if Magic, you can put if you don't want a certain card, if you don't want a single card in your hand, you hate it, it's so bad that it's going to destroy your whole game, you can go ahead, but you have to put your whole hand back, and now you got to draw 6 instead of 7, and you can keep doing it though, but then you keep being down a card. In Yu-Gi-Oh, I believe there's also a mulligan. I forgot the exact way to do it. I think you can... I honestly...
I'm pretty sure you draw one less card, but you can mulligan, I believe.
Same thing? Okay, I know they've gone through some changes with certain rules of the game recently, but I personally really love the mulligan that it is, because even though that is interesting, the double mechanic, at what point does it then become... Okay, there's certain cards that you need to beat a certain deck or whatever, or sometimes you do get double hands that are just not good, maybe not playable, too many uninkables, or whatever the case is. But then I think it does get to a point where it's like, that's where some strategy comes in, because once you get another one, and if they do it the same way where it's like, okay, you mulligan, let's say you hate your whole hand, you mulligan 7, okay, you hate your whole hand again, now you mulligan 7, and then you draw another 7 off the top. Now you're getting to card 21 off the top of your deck. That's 1/3 of your deck to find cards that you want. Now I feel like there's a little less strategy in it, because you're pretty confident that if there's, let's say, Be Prepared for Ruby Amethyst, probably the biggest card, the biggest name drop card you could have in the game today. You don't have it on 1 and you don't have it on 2. I think it's already hard enough to beat Ruby Amethyst, even if they don't have Be Prepared. Obviously, it's a very big crutch for them, but they still have good cards. If they get another mulligan, they don't get Be Prepared, they're definitely getting Be Prepared. Statistically, like...
Well, actually, let me reiterate that, because I feel like I didn't really... I would say the second mulligan, but so as we all know, you can mulligan your entire hand away and then draw 7. It should be mulligan your entire hand away, but you shuffle your deck, then draw.
So like Magic, but only you draw 7 again.
Yeah, then draw 6. Hey.
Oh, okay. So Magic.
It's something like that to Because again, there are times where you're gonna have just two bad hands. I've had it happen plenty of times, and I'm not trying to say like that's what they should do, but I would.
Sure.
That was like the only bad thing I could see for
like
gameplay.
You said, it's at this point it's like kind of a nitpick. Like it's not, we're not saying end all be all, but it's like
100%.
If you had to change an aspect of the game, that would maybe be something you would test out type. I'm assuming that's what you're saying. Okay, yeah, because for me, I mean, right now, I think it's really hard to come up with a negative for actual gameplay. The only negative, you might agree with me, and it's not gameplay. Don't hate me for anyone who plays this, but Ruby Amethyst mirror match. We might need to just get that out. If two people are playing each other that are Ruby Amethyst, someone's forced to play with their deck too. If they don't got one, we'll provide one to you. And flip a coin, whoever gets to keep theirs. I don't know, because I mean, you know what? It's funny. My brother and I were talking about this again on Saturday. A lot of the things that right now, it's a brand new game, which means everyone who's playing the game are all fresh to these decks. Like it's not like Magic and people have been playing now with their modern deck forever, whatever deck is meta at the time period, and then you come in and you're fresh just learning it, playing someone who's been playing with that same deck for 5 years or whatever the case is, you know. My history as far as how Magic goes might be way off, so don't be mad at me if you play Magic and you're like, no deck ever lives for 5 years. I don't know, but so we're kind of in a spot too where when my brother and I were talking about it, it's like, even for my Amber Steel Songs deck, like I had to grow into, okay, when I'm playing this type of deck, how am I supposed to play this deck that I have? But when I'm playing Ruby Amethyst, what way should I be playing, you know, my Amber Steel Songs deck? You know, it's gonna vary depending on what deck you're playing. You know, I threw in a couple Mickeys, the 3-drop 3/3s with lore for questing for 2, because I'm playing that over Tinkerbell, or over what's the other 3 Ariel 100% of the time if I'm playing Ruby Amethyst, because I'm sorry, even shifting into Tink, the damage what Tink is strong for does not matter whatsoever against a Ruby Amethyst. And as far as Ariel, like there's not really any song I can draw because I don't play A Whole New World, and usually that deck doesn't specifically. So for me personally, there's no real card I can get from Ariel's play that can draw. What Mickey can do for me is can quest for 2. If they want to play Rafiki and kill it, at least that Rafiki ends up dying. If they don't have 100%. Rafiki, they gotta wait until turn 5 until they get a Dragonfire or a Maui to take care of my board. So like it's just adjustments like that we've had to make, and it's just learning your deck. And I have been seeing now, and with my brother too, he mentioned he feels like the games for him, even in the mirror matches, have been going a little bit quicker. They're not ending on game 1 anymore, because he's starting to really get a feeling for his deck and how he's supposed to play it depending on whatever variation of deck he's playing against.
I want to actually interject with this, because that leads into one of our other bullet points, which was adapting your play style. I can't tell you how many times now in the past 3 weeks I've adapted to, okay, I know, let's say, I mean, you're going to see the same person potentially time after time.
Sure.
And you start knowing what their deck is. Or once you see that first card of red, orange, whatever, you know what you're facing. And because of the adaptability of what your deck can do, I'll use an example. There is a person I've played against. They have a blue steel deck that literally just ramps lore. They just it's a fast deck, and they don't really attack you. It's just to get their lore. Well, after losing them hard once, I figured, oh, okay, well, if they're not going to attack my stuff, flood the board, win. And that only works for so many decks as it is. But the adaptability of like, okay, 100% there. You took out Ariel for Mickey because you know Mickey's going to at least get you the 2, versus Ariel where you're going to get a song. But hey, if you're playing against red, it's like, well, what's that going to do?
Right. I get a be our guest, which now I'm wasting to either sing with Ariel so I don't get that lore, or I spend 2 ink on it to find a character. It's like, and I'm talking about Ruby Amethyst. Obviously, I'm giving the example. I think in all examples to this point, I think Ruby Amethyst is like what would you call it? Like the headliner of constructed decks for set 1 at least, to where we can kind of base everything off that. That's like the meta setter. That was the first deck to be like, oh, this is consistent, this is very good, and it's clear that it's very good. And we've just started seeing other iterations of deck that have come out that have been able to beat it, but it just goes to show like how long it's really taken for us to get into a meta where it's like, wow, Ruby Amethyst isn't gonna place first every time. There's not gonna be 6 out of 8 Ruby Amethysts in the top 8. You know, you're gonna have the Amber Steels in there sprinkled in with Emerald Amethyst, even Steel Sapphire, which by the way, I have no proof, but I've been praising Steel Sapphire from the very beginning. I made a deck, done really good with it.
You were like, no, this it's a good deck, and I've seen it in act. I've seen variants of Steel Sapphire in action, and they can be really good.
It's annoying,
however,
but
I want to say I will agree and disagree at the same time about the meta setter or the trend setter.
Okay.
I feel like it was literally half and half. Half was Ruby Amethyst, half was Amber Steel. That's
okay.
Or Amber variants.
Sure.
And then it's I would say within the last 3 weeks, last maybe 4 months, if that Amber Steel and Ruby Amethyst have solidified. Okay, these are what our metas are.
Yeah.
These are what you're gonna play against.
Sure. Yeah, because we did have like Lemon Lime for a while, which was like it is good against Ruby Amethyst because it's questing hard and it puts a lot of pressure on them.
They're questing. That's about it.
But yeah, so well, okay, cool. So we went over that. We have a couple other topics we wanna kind of go over. So another one that's kind of just, we can get into some of the fun stuff now. I mean, it's fun to talk about in general. So I can talk about Lorcana all day right now. But let's get into something that's just kind of subjective, something fun to talk about. And I would say maybe some of our favorite or / best cards. So maybe if you want to start off with a card you particularly have just had a heart for, whether it's because you love the Disney character or it's a card that you play in your deck that you just love playing because it's just so consistent for you, or even if you want to talk about a card you think is just so good and where you think it's just really good, maybe it's underrated, maybe it's overrated, or just in general just very good. But what do you think?
I 100%. I have 3 instantly. This is a great question. Favorite cards. My number 1 favorite card is Stitch New Dog.
Yeah.
Not to be too personal. I lost my dog.
I know you do because I've played you, and you love getting that shift on turn 3 with Lantern into Rockstar.
Yes, I mean the shift. That's another thing. The mechanic of shifting is great. Yeah. But like I'm a dog guy, so like Stitch New Dog, just like it's just it
got your heart.
A feel good moment.
Sure. Yeah.
Second favorite card is Developer Brain. My favorite Disney movie of all time is Sword in the Stone. I 100% love it. It's a masterpiece by itself. Some will agree, some won't, and that's totally okay. Sure. Developer Brain is just like, it's so iconic to me. Like, Wart's trying to learn. He's trying to learn how to read.
Right. That is good.
Third favorite card is, it's got to be because of the artwork. It's Merlin. So my favorite character is Merlin. It's himself, and then to see him in the game, I when I was watching the interview with the creator of, I forgot his name already, but that's me and names. When he said his favorite movie was Sword in the Stone, I lost it. I was like, no, okay, please more.
They're coming out with another Merlin.
Go ahead.
No. I'm just saying they're coming out with another one, right? Another Merlin.
Well, they're coming with a bunch of Merlins. So from the leaks we've seen in set 2, Merlin's going to have his animal form. It's more than likely, and I'm going to just love it because, again, Sword and Stone's my favorite movie. It hands down. Nothing for animated, real life, whatever, Back to the Future. But yeah, we'll get into that. Sure. Anyways, yeah. So those are my top 3 favorite cards in the game right now. The fourth card I would say that's been hyped up or like has a lot of like you kind of either love to see or hate to see. Sure. Actually, is Giant Tinkerbell. Like,
oh man, yeah.
Like, I love the card.
I love it.
And when it's playing against me, it's like, okay, yeah, I see what we're doing here.
Oh, I love it.
It's great because it gives me such a diversity of like, how do I play around this now, or how do I get rid of that, things like that. And like the second week when cards became, or when they hit stores, I was at LGS, so I picked up my product. I had some proxies because I really did. But I had Tinks though. I had her in my hand, and
oh yeah, that's right. You're Tink's dad. with how
What's
many
that?
tinks you have. I said you're Tink's dad with how many tinks you got.
I am Tink's dad. Seriously, I've gotten at least 3 play sets so far.
It's
And so
ridiculous.
I had the 4 foils. This is okay. It's my brag. I had the 4 foils, not the enchantments, because
That's
you know what? I haven't pulled an enchantment. I'm not dropping that money for that. But anyways,
Sure.
4 foils, and then 2 play sets of regular, just giant Tinkerbells. And I've literally whenever I get stealing, it just goes right back out. Like people want steel. It's
Yeah.
such a big staple as it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are my like 3 favorite cards, and like the one like I kind of love hate seeing or whatever.
Sure.
What about you? What are your favorite cards?
Yeah, yeah. I just to branch off of like to go over Tinkerbell real quick. I've every time I play it, if you're not playing Tink, aside of your Ruby Amethyst again, because it doesn't really affect you much, but like
Right.
if you're playing any other deck and you don't have like Tink in your deck, or you're playing, even in your case, like you like to play the aggro version of Amber Steel.
Yes.
So I have not heard nearly as many heavy exhales that come out of people's mouths when I drop a Tink, even when I drop the little Tink, because they know what's coming and they just hate the idea of it. And when I first had Tink and I was playing it against people who didn't really, that were going by and first kind of going to constructed events and seeing and just playing and having fun and didn't know really what Tink did, they were just mind blown that it was a card. Like, wait, 1 damage plus you get to just attack this thing for free on the first turn you shift into it and then do 2 damage to something else. That's crazy. And then I do this Rapunzel after and heal it and then draw.
What really gets me is with Tink, you're not wrong. I cannot count how many times it's shift. Like and don't get me wrong, I've had playing against me. I know the feeling of like, yep, and here comes the pain. But it's also like there's a small bit of joy of like pay 4, or with Lancering pay 3, and you just know they're like, no, don't do it. I'm like, yeah, but Tink. Why? What? I thought we were friends. Like, we were friends, but I want to win.
Right. I mean, it's nuts. So that is just a fun card to have to play. I'm sure it's very annoying to play against. But yeah, as far as like, I have a couple different categories. Best card, I don't know if you would disagree with me, but I almost feel like it's hard to say that it's not Be Prepared, because it's a part of the best, if not, the deck that's tied for best deck. And it's pretty much, if you don't have that, a lot of the times it ends up losing them the game. And I almost think if that wasn't in Ruby Amethyst, that I think Amethyst would still be a deck that's heavily played with other decks, but I don't think Ruby would be played nearly as much.
Right. I'll agree. I will half agree and half disagree.
Okay.
I agree that it is a very important card, and it, in terms of utility, it probably is the best card because of the dual board wipe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you got nothing on your board as it is, it's fine.
Yeah.
My thing is that I look at, to me, the best card is actually, again, this one I disagree. I think it's Grab Your Swords.
Okay.
Because that is to me, it's the mini board wipe, and over half the time I've played it, I'm wiping boards, or I'm getting, all right, cool. Here's Grab Your Sword and plus Big Tink. All right, cool, and I've wiped your board again. And to me, I can play the same. I can pay the same amount for. Again, granted, it's utility and what you're playing in. So I agree and disagree at the same time, but I totally get what you're saying, though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I see your point, too, because Grab Your Sword, at worst, you play it on turn 5. At best, you have Aerial, and you can sing with it. And
so, like, why?
Right. Yeah. If you see Aerial, like, it kind of sucks that you got to show them when Grab Your Sword is what you draw, because then they know. And then it's just like, oh, so there's nothing I can do. All right, great. Let me just quest with my cards this turn. But yeah, okay. So then I have kind of
I'm gonna disagree with you. That's a fake out.
Oh, what? If you do it but then you don't like end up using it?
So yes, I've actually done this 3 different games now where I will play. I sing with Aerial, I play Aerial, and I have Grab Your Sword. I'll grab it. I already have one in hand, or I'll wait 2 turns. Because they're doing something and they're waiting to put something out. And because if they can put something out to answer that, oh, cool, I'm getting free lore. So I've used it as a fake out for at least 2 to 3 turns where cool, yeah, it's in my hand, great. And then, all right, cool, grab your swords.
Yeah.
Right? And then, but honestly, the dual grab your swords is what gets people still like, because they expect, nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition, nobody
Yeah.
expects to double grab your swords, and I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah, no, it is definitely really strong. I mean, we can go over a million cards, and there's certain situations why they're the best. But as far as I made a video on this as well, so if anyone watching this hasn't seen it, I think I may have a little bit of a different opinion now. Like at the time, I thought Fishbone Quill was incredibly underrated.
Love it. Love it.
I may think I still think it's underrated, but I think we still have some time to see just how underrated it is, because the ability, the basically the points I made in my video, I'm not sure if you were able to check it out or not, but if you weren't, just a brief summary is like the idea that, you know, you can play this card on turn 3, or you can ink it if you get it late game where it's not as valuable. You can ink it. You play it on turn 3. You can, since it's an item, you can use its effect on the turn you play it, and you can ink uninkable cards. On top of that fact that you can, you know, where I kind of compared it to was Bell, where you can ink additionally, but you have to ink an inkable card. So in two aspects, why Fishbone I think is better in early game than Bell. One, I mean, well, I guess 3 aspects. Bell is a 2/4 that's an easy target to kill, and doesn't get really its value until you hit 10 ink. But Fishbone, you can ink something that's uninkable. Since you can ink any card that you have in your hand, you don't have to show your opponent. You can just use it. You can ink it. And I mean, if you're new to TCG, and that maybe doesn't sound like that's such a crazy thing, because you're still getting into the mindset of playing, you know, TCG, and if you're getting into competitive for the first time, you know, a big part of game is just mind games. You know, how I know this deck typically plays, what's a Sapphire? I know this deck typically plays for whatever, you know, maybe it's Sapphire Stair, four whole new worlds, but maybe you don't need a whole new world, but you ink it, you don't have to show them. Well, they still think you have maybe one whole new world left, because you've used 3, but you used it for ink, and now maybe they're giving out their hand a lot because they're like, oh, this is about the time where he'd probably throw down another whole new world. So it adds another layer of just like strategy and mind games to it, where I think it has the potential to just be very, very good. So
100% agree. I love Fishbone. It's so, again, the whole fact is you don't have to show what you're inking. For those who are new to this TCG, every time you have to show, for regular inking, you have to show what you're putting into your inkwell. This is the one way you don't have to show. And hey, well, I'm pretty sure he has this. Are you? Two turns in a row. Cool. Ink. What did I put down? You have no idea now.
Yeah, right. And, all right, guys. Sorry about that quick cut. It just kind of like crashed on me, I'll say. So just to continue, I mean, we went over Fishbone. So overall, Fishbone is just really good. That's really what we were getting at. Overall, Fishbone was really good. I think it will continue to be very good, especially if, I think Sapphire is going to be really strong in the next set. Come out with some cards already that look really good. And then favorite card, what I would say is favorite. So two sections of favorite card. Favorite card that I love the look of it. I don't know why, and especially in cold foil, I think it's. I don't know. It's weird. You might think it's weird, but it's
foils are 100%.
Cold foil. You have forgotten me does something to me. I don't know why.
It's good.
I think it looks awesome. It's got to be because the art is cool, but it's very basic art. But the way the cold foil just makes it shine is just something. It almost looks like the head of is Mufasa or Simba. This is terrible.
It's Mufasa.
All right, I thought so. That's terrible. I had to ask. But his face out of the smoke, it kind of makes it look like just like a shadowy figure coming out of the smoke. Yep. So so I love the look of that card.
I traded for one on Sunday.
Wait, what happened?
The hot tip. I was traded for a cold foil. You forgot me on Sunday.
Oh, dude. I mean, the card's obviously great too. Helps a lot against Ruby Amethyst. But, and then I would say my favorite card has probably. I mean, that's probably my favorite card to play too, because It hurt. I've always been a fan of making people discard hands and seeing what they discarded and then being like,
Right.
oh, hell yeah, like I just discarded something good that they needed. I've always been a fan of that, and it's especially satisfying when they have 2 cards left in hand and you play it and you're just like,
That's just the best
sorry.
feeling.
So that's probably my favorite card to play, but like it's not always the best because you're not putting characters on the board. So
100%.
but yeah, so I think that's good for that section. Let's see. There's obviously more we can go over. We could go over like some of the cards that they revealed for the next set, but they're going to continue to reveal more. I think we can maybe, because it's coming close to time, we want to make this a roughly around an hour. We don't want to overindulge in this, especially in our first podcast. And we know you have other podcasts and videos you want to get to and whatnot. This is just another one we hope you tune into. So yeah, and we know how the world is with low attention spans, and if you're like me, you're probably like, nah, go on for another hour, I don't care. But I understand sometimes you just want to get through the information and see. So we can go over that maybe next week. But you also had something on here you wanted to talk about, and we kind of went over it a bit, but like the apples to oranges of Lorcana versus MTG. Obviously very similar.
I think we've already really done that, which was we know what the play style, what Magic is versus Lorcana, and it's another TCG. Sure, that's what this is. But the whole thing is, I would say, once the accessibility is no longer an issue, it's going to be all right. Who's coming to it now? You know, you had all the new Disney people who were like, huh, what is this? And the thing is, now that there's more limited edition stuff coming out, it's going to keep drawing more people in going, hey, you know what? I want to play that because I know a ton of people like, you know what? I want to play high rarity. I want max rarity. They're gonna buy the cards and show up to the event and be like, hey, I'm the go.
Yeah. Right. Ultimately, like you said, like we went over it. It's just it's almost just a different. It's like Magic's little brother, I would say, right now in the stage. It's very similar. Obviously, you go from 0 to 20, not 20 to 0. It's Disney. You know, what do you expect them to just be like? All right, I killed you. Like, you know, I had someone who was kind of funny. It was like they said it was something like they had a character, whatever character it was like, oh, Maleficent will kill your Mickey or whatever. It's like, oh, it's not kill, it's banish. It's Disney.
100%.
Like,
Disney.
so.
They did the research there. They don't want that kill aspect. They want it's banished, and because of that, every parent out there is like, so that's the banished. That's fine, because again, sometimes you need that family friendly in there, and that's why this is going to succeed.
And it's Disney. They don't want to taint their Disney name, regardless if they're the ones fully behind it or kind of handing it off to another company to run. And yeah, I thought. Honestly, I do have to say, I thought the aspect of having to like quest for lore and get to 20, that I wasn't going to be as much of a fan as the Magic idea, because I'm the type of guy where like if you can make a movie rated R, like it would be cool and see like the blood and gore of stuff, like go for it. Like I want to see that. So I thought like I don't know how it'll play, how it'll make me feel, but I can say now 100% I'm totally down for the whole questing and lore and getting to 20. I'm making a podcast and videos for this thing. Like I love this game right now. I think it's in a great state as gameplay. The negatives, again, just to go over kind of what we went about, we understand, everyone knows the restocks, it's just bad. The product, like how much product you can get your hands on or lack thereof is in a bad state right now, but you can't ask for more really from a company who is doing their absolute best and hardest and is actively in the community, talking to the community almost every day, going over rules and all this stuff and updating the community. Dude, I've been playing Call of Duty my whole life.
It's them actually updating. It's them. It's not, no, it's the company saying, hey, we hear you. We're doing, like, they actually care about their player base.
Exactly.
I can name several 3 companies. I'll stop. But
No, I
yeah,
was just gonna
it's
say I've been playing Call of Duty my whole life. I used to play Call of Duty competitively, go to events and things. They are famous for people hating aspects of their game and wanting change. And it got to a point where it's like, guys, like we've been for months wanting to change, like just update us, like what's going on, like this is clearly an issue, just give us an update, even if it's not something we want to hear. We want to know that you're listening and that you're actively trying to figure out, even if you're not at the solution part, you're actively trying to figure out a way to get to that solution. And right now Ravensburger is doing it without, well, I mean, I'm sure they obviously know that people are upset. But they don't need hundreds and thousands of people to constantly barrage them. I see comments here and there, but it's nothing like Call of Duty of literally hundreds of thousands of people adding Activision to make changes. Like, no, they're seeing the group, they're actively involved in the Lorcana groups. If you don't know, they're likely within the Discords of Lorcana and the Facebook groups, listening to the feedback, the positives and the negatives, and they're going off of that. So
I mean, I'll compare this to Yu-Gi-Oh right away, like 100%.
Yeah,
Yu-Gi-Oh,
Konami.
how many people have added at them saying, "Hey, your ban list is inappropriate," or "Yo, or the forbidden list." Excuse my French here, because like, that's literally their community managers treat their players negatively. It's not good, and it's like, that's not right. Well, I play your game. I support you, and yet you can't treat me like an adult. Ravensburger's like, hey, we know there's an issue. We are working on it. Please understand. And still you added them. They're like, hey, we get it. We're sorry. We're trying to go forward. So
right.
100% to them.
Right, and it's like, they're coming out with cards to reveal, or like I saw there was a Facebook post where they gave content creators access to some of their logos and their ink colors and stuff to use in content and whatnot, which I think is awesome. But I saw a comment like, oh, you should be focused on the product, like how poor it is or how hard it is to get product, this or that. And it's like, okay, look, first of all, they're going over that. Do you just expect them to be silent about everything else and stop all communication about like what they're revealing or things that they're doing aside from just working on that? Like, they're still a company, they're still trying to build hype, because there are players out there that actually do understand the situation and do appreciate them reaching out and still want to know about like the new stuff to come. So to encompass that all, again, kind of went on another long rant about that. It's just it makes me feel bad, because there are plenty of companies out there that do not care, that 100%. Is far more worth your time adding them and, you know, giving your that negative feedback to. You know, always try to keep it constructive, obviously, but Ravensburger is brand new with this game, trying to get this game running and trying to keep the player base, because they know how upset the player base is and how harmful it can be for the game as a whole if this consistently happens set over set over set. They understand that could completely end their game if it continues to be like this through their next several sets. So they're working on it. Just all I say, give them some time. You know,
100%.
You know, if it's 5 years, the same thing's going on, then you know what, maybe we switch the tone up a little bit, but not like obviously stakes outside their front door, but like, you know, we know where we're getting at. Anyway, we're going on long about it. We hope that you enjoyed this first podcast that we did. Many episodes to come. It's gonna be. We're gonna shoot for
the three important things: like, share, and subscribe.
Like, share, right? Like, share, and subscribe. It's gonna be dropped on my channel. You might be seeing it on Mark's channel as well. Again, for me, I'm JohnnieDB on YouTube, JohnnieTCG on Twitter. We got Potter Plays on YouTube, Potter_plays on Twitch. Again, go catch him. You can follow him on Twitch whenever he's live. He's not only playing Lorcana. If you like kind of seeing variety games and other things, you can go watch him play just several other different games. For me right now, I don't have anything. I do want to make a Twitch and play Lorcana and other games. I'm into other stuff too, but yeah, it was fun. I say I enjoyed the first episode. I can't wait to do more. I hope you guys come back, and I hope you check out the rest of my videos. Check out the rest of I don't know if do you have other videos on your channel that you do? I'm not too sure. I haven't gone to that yet. I'm sorry. I just ranted myself. I went to your Twitch. You know this. We went over that, but I will definitely be checking out your channel.
Well, both channels that definitely have content. Like again, just go to each of them, like them, subscribe, all that good jazz. Look and then comment. The biggest thing is, I mean, yes, getting more subscribers is amazing, but honestly, I'm looking for interaction. Comment on the videos, share these, and make counterpoints. Challenge us on our decisions. I'll gladly reply to them. So
oh no, we'll 100%. And if anyone has ideas for topics, or they come up with like a really solid point, like we'll come back to it. Like I'm sure you don't. I mean, I'll speak for myself, but I can almost 100% guarantee that you would not mind, like if someone brings up a good point or a good topic, throw it in for an episode and see, you know. So you might even be featured a comment. We want the interactions. We'll reply to your comments just generally on the channel, but also we want to, you know, see certain things that you guys want to hear us talk about. You know, at the end of the day, that's what we're doing, is we're trying to come up with content, talk about things that we ultimately, yes, like talking about, but we want to cater to you guys as well, and go over things that you guys are interested in actually listening to. So that's all that I really have to say. Is there anything left for you before we end this here?
Nope, I think you covered it all very well. I mean, I would say for the most part, like this is what the channel is about. Like we want to go over the topics that are important, but also like, hey, as you said, if you got an idea, let us know. We'll definitely go over it. So with that being said, check out both channels, give us comments, all good jazz, and we'll see you soon.
Yep, and hope you guys have a great day.
Yep, bye.